Got your makeup done?
Yes. Hello, hello.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the shop. Christopher and I are set up and ready to go. We're talking this week about the fact that it's the end of school, end of high school for many people are graduating, and also the end of college for many people. Or there's folks who are looking for summer jobs, maybe.
Yeah.
People are looking for career opportunities. And so one of the things that we wanted to chat about was how do you interview? And, it's a...
I know I didn't know how to interview when I got out of high school, that's for sure.
Yeah. I wish they would have had a class on that because it's an art form, and it's something that people don't get a whole lot of practice at. So,
No.
and there are ways to do things. There are also some difficult questions, and so we thought we'd walk through how to do some interviews, and I'll give you some of my advice. I've had a few.
You've been in the exec world for quite a while, many years.
Yeah.
Any idea on how long you've been in?
So I have interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, everything from entry-level positions, mowing lawns, to six-figure executives. And I've interviewed hundreds of people, literally. And I've also participated in many interviews where I was being interviewed, probably 50 of those at least. And so it's something that I kind of studied. I actually enjoy interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, and they get nervous. And so
I am one of those people.
One of those, yeah.
Not a fan.
No, it's just one of those weird things that you get better at as you practice it. And I'm hoping today that you and I can provide some helpful tips for folks. If you haven't got a lot of interview experience, or even those who do may learn something from this. From an HR perspective, there are a lot of tricks to the trade, and there are a lot of questions that are difficult to answer. And so,
Yeah. So, as someone who's gone through so many interviews and been interviewed yourself, how did you always get into the mood to, or prepare for an interview?
Yeah, first step before you even go, you gotta have things prepared. And so, first thing is a resume. And the thing about a resume is that's your first opportunity to tell your story. I recommend no more than 2 pages. If you're in one of those executive roles where, those six-figure roles, you're going to put together a pretty big resume. Everything's going to go in there. But for most people, a single sheet is a resume that will work, and you just want to kind of highlight. And I always, you're going to include your jobs. You're going to include your education. You're going to, because so many people are probably limited in experience. I would recommend also including volunteer activities and hobbies that relate to whatever it is you're interviewing for. For example, if you're interviewing for a landscaping company, and maybe one of your hobbies is that you really enjoy being outdoors and hiking and working in the outdoors, you're going to want to put that down and fill that one page out. Just have a full page, and don't fret over it too terribly much, but make it look professional, and that's pretty easy to do these days on the computer. So, and then, so resume first.
Have you ever seen like double-sided resumes, or
I don't
try to keep it one side?
Those. Keep it one side, and then be as concise as you can. And I it's kind of a coin toss. Do you include how much you were paid at each of these things? That, especially in the executive world, that comes later. You start talking money later, but you could include it. Put your dates that you started there, what your job title was, when you ended there, and perhaps why you left that position for something else. And so, pretty basic stuff in that's your first sales pitch. That's the first look somebody's going to get at you.
First impression kind of mean everything.
It does. And so, going along with that, though, is so you prepare your resume, but if they have an application, make sure you fill that thing out entirely. Seriously, Christopher, years ago when I was hiring for an entry-level position, I would get 120 applications. you start weeding them out. And one of the ways I would weed them out is if they didn't complete their application,
Yeah.
you went in the no stack. And so
Wow.
complete the thing. I literally have had people forget to sign their applications. Or they write on the application, see resume. No, the application, they want the stuff. So fill out the application completely. And yeah, so that's the first step, is getting your resume ready, and then application letters ready.
Okay.
And yeah.
So now that, let's say you get a call, go to an interview, then what? You have your resume, find everything, have everything out, you go to the actual place. How do you get ready?
Yeah, so beforehand, first thing, let me also say, have some references ready to put on your resume. At the executive level, you take that as a separate sheet, but a lot of resumes have down on the bottom, and I like to put in a friend, a peer, someone who is in the same job level that I am, and then one of my bosses. So I always get those three because I want them to have a look at me. From friend is a personal, peer is how did I work with other people, and then supervisor or boss, how did that person. So those are three good references to try and look up, and always ask them first. For one thing, you want to make sure that it's going to be good reference.
Yeah.
And so preparing for the interview itself, you'd also do a little bit of homework, go online and look the organization up. I can tell you that I've had people, and I ask, it's usually one of the very, very first icebreaker questions. What do you know about our organization? If somebody says, I don't know anything about it.
I know where it is. I'm here.
I made it to here, and I'm on time. So do a little bit of homework, even just a real quick search online, even if it's McDonald's. Do a little bit of research, and just so you can say, yeah, I've looked up the organization, and here's what I know about it. And you will probably get filled in anyway. I always did, even if somebody said, yeah, I went on your all's webpage, and then I went to your 990 IRS form, and there's different ways that you can research things. And but I always went ahead and briefed them a little bit on the place. So you're getting ready for the interview. You've gotten a call. You've got an interview. What do you do now? So my first recommendation is always dress nice. If you're going for a business world, executive world job, then you're going to wear a tie and a jacket. But for most entry-level jobs, just dress nice. Even if it's one of those jobs that it's outdoors and it's a dirty job, even then, go looking good. It's that first impression thing that you mentioned earlier. So always dress up pretty good. Dress sharp. Have your hair combed or brushed, and don't overdo the perfume or cologne. There are people out there that I know personally who have trouble breathing when they're around it, and so it's nice to do a light cologne or a light perfume, but don't overdo that.
Enough to not smell bad.
You don't want to smell bad, and so look sharp, dress sharp, and before you go, make some copies of your resume, because I've been in interviews where half the people who are sitting there doing the interview didn't have a copy of they forgot to bring a copy of the resume.
Leaning over, looking at the other.
Nice to be able to hand it out. Take a pad of paper and a pen, and before you go, write questions down for them. Don't ever forget, when you're interviewing, you are interviewing them too. You may find out this is not a place I really want to work, and so you should have questions. And
what kind of questions would you recommend?
We'll talk about some questions that you should have a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, just there's a number of ways to break that ice, and you should always have some. And you may find while you're interviewing that they're actually answering your questions. Just X them off your list. Make sure you have them written down. And before you go in, it's okay to be nervous. We're all nervous about that kind of thing. I've done a lot of them, and I enjoy them. So it's. For me, they're fun. It's an opportunity to meet new people. It's an opportunity to find out about a new organization and maybe even make a contact that might help you later on, or you can hear about other jobs. So I always enjoyed them, but I didn't always enjoy them, but the last 20, 30 years I've enjoyed them, and it gives you a chance to tell your story, and you're practicing and honing your skills. And so I have gone to interviews that I knew I was not going to take the job.
Yeah. but still wanted
get
to
the interview experience.
Yeah.
And so I've done that, and so as many as you can go through, get that practice in. So yeah, beforehand, application, resume ready, dress sharp the day of, light on the perfume or cologne, look good, keep your hair brushed, take breath mints. You know,
Yeah.
think about it. When you're talking to somebody who has bad breath, are you listening at all, or do you just want to get away?
Yeah.
You just want to get away from the bad breath. So pop a breath mint before you go in, and you know, your plan is to try and get everything set up so that there is no distractions about you that can take away from your interview time.
Right.
So, yeah, so preparing for it, do a little bit of homework, dress sharp, arrive early. Don't be late. I'll tell you a story. I did hire a woman one time who was 15 minutes late, and she was the last interview. She had picked the last interview slot because she was leaving one job and coming to an interview. She was 15 minutes late. Mm-hmm. We were packing up and leaving. We were locking the doors.
Jeez.
She came running up to the door with a cigarette in her mouth. She saw us in the door, flicked the cigarette into our landscaping.
Nice.
And we let her in and interviewed her anyway. And yeah, my first impression was horrible. And there is a point to this story. She got the job, but she was exceptional. She gave an outstanding interview. She sold herself extremely well. If you're going to blow something early on in that, you better be exceptional with the rest of it. And she was, and we hired her, and she's still there in that position. So, yeah,
nice.
she found a home, and she was a good hire. But, boy, first impression was not great. She was late, and she flicked her cigarette into our landscaping. But she got it. So don't ever think that it's not possible. And so, yeah, arrive early, bring copies of your resume. Relax a little bit. It's just an interview. Relax. You get the chance to tell people about yourself, and so that's a good thing. It's an opportunity to sell yourself. Be sure and take breath mints. Smile a whole lot. Smiles break down barriers really quickly, and so I always like people walk in with a smile. Smile during the interview.
Yeah.
It also calms you down. It makes you so you're not quite as nervous.
I smile when I get nervous. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of us do. Practice your handshake too. I've thought a lot about this since we talked about doing this this podcast on interviews, and I've had people who've done the really light little. No. Don't do that. But at the same time, I've had guys walk in and they do that arm back here and slam your hand. Don't do that either. I've had
Happy
guys.
medium.
Somewhere in there's a happy medium. You're right. And I've had guys pump my hand up and down, my arm up and down, and it feels like they're going to break my hand. That's not a good look either. And so, so practice your handshake. It's okay. My wife, Kat, years ago when she was interviewing a lot, she was worried about her handshake, and so she practiced her handshake with me, and just to get it just right, because she has a pretty solid handshake. And so, bring that pad of paper. As I mentioned, get comfortable in your chair. Once you're seated, just get comfortable, relax. Take a minute. It's okay to hesitate. I never minded, in the hundreds of people I've interviewed, somebody sitting down, kind of adjusting themselves and getting relaxed. I never minded that. Relax. It's going to be okay. You just got to go through some things. Remember always that it is okay to ask questions in an interview as well. So, have your questions. If the opportunity pops up and they've asked you a question that leads to one of your questions, go ahead and ask that question. It's okay. I'm also one of these guys that when I get done answering a question, I will ask, did that fully answer your question? And they'll say, well, I was thinking more.
Yeah.
I
Part
saw
of it,
your
not
resume.
all of it.
Yeah. So, but I've also had them most of the time just go, yeah, thank you. And then keep in mind that once you've got yourself relaxed, always bring it back to your story. Every question comes back to your story and selling yourself. And so just keep that in mind as you're sitting there getting ready for it. It's okay to ask clarification questions too. When somebody asks a question, I've actually had questions asked of me, and I'm not sure exactly what they're asking.
Yeah.
No, I'll ask them. So clarify that for me, and they'll usually be happy to ask it in another way.
Okay.
So, and then as I said earlier, it is okay to hesitate. It's okay to take a breath. It's okay. You don't have to answer that question immediately. Give them some thought. It's okay to take a few seconds and kind of piece your thoughts together and answer those questions.
Yeah, because my first interview was, he would ask me a question and I felt like I had to answer it right away.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I did not want to sit there and just think and like, I'm taking this guy's time. And so I was always like, oh, this, and I couldn't think of something, so I would just make noises and be like, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
It was not a good experience. But.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all tend to do that. You want to jump in, but if you can force yourself to take just a few seconds and think about it, and that's all part of that relaxation thing. And then the other thing is, frequently they will tell you, I always did anyway when I was interviewing people, we've got 50 minutes.
Yeah.
If you got 50 minutes and you've only been there for half an hour, you still got to take your time.
Yeah.
It's okay. Spread it out. And every question is an opportunity to sell yourself. So,
But was there ever a time when you were doing the interview that, let's say you gave someone 50 minutes and they said all they needed to say in 30 minutes? Were there times that you were like, we talked about all we need to talk about, I feel good about this, or were there times that it's like, I know I gave this person 50 minutes, but he's still talking about this, this, and this?
No, I've had them, that's a good question. And it does lead to something that I did want to talk about, but we'll talk about it now.
Okay.
There are no yes, no answers. I have had interviews where I scheduled 50 minutes for somebody, and we were done in 12 minutes. And it's like, you didn't sell yourself. If I said, do you have any experience on a riding lawnmower? Yes. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to pull it out of you. Tell me about it. And so go into a little more detail. You're trying to sell yourself, and so give them more. There's no yes, no answers. Although I have been in interviews, a couple of them, where they've said, okay, the next series of questions is just yes, no. At that point, yes.
Yeah, if you're instructed to answer yes, no.
Otherwise, always take it to your story. Take it to selling yourself to them. And so... but I have had I've had interviews go long too, where I know I've done it to people where I've gone long myself because I'm going to sell myself as hard as I can and as often as I can. I'm going to take it back to my story every time. And so just know your story, know your resume, know your experience, and tell them.
Yeah, because potentially you only have the one shot to do so.
A lot of times that's it. Yep.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, just prepare, relax, take it easy on yourself. And don't forget you're interviewing them too. I think that's real important. I think most people don't think that.
So, when you're doing that, when you're interviewing them also, what exactly are you trying to ask and find out?
I'm trying to find out what it's like there.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out who I'm going to be working with and what they're like. I'm trying to find out what the corporate culture is. And so I will ask questions that we can get into these here in a bit, but I will ask questions that pull that stuff out, and really even the most out front basic one is, why do you like working here? To the interviewer. It throws the interviewer.
Yeah.
But I've had it enough where I was prepared for it most of the time, but a few times it's like, why do I like it here? Let me think.
Yeah.
And so, you're wanting to know who you're going to be working with, what the atmosphere is there, how high pressure is it, how low pressure is it, yeah.
Okay.
You may get in there and find out, and you know what, this particular, what motivates these people is not what motivates me.
Right.
And so
you want different things than what they're offering.
Yeah. And that's okay. You're getting interview experience either way. So
yeah. Well, I mean, now switching over to you being the interviewer, or if you were to interview me, what kind of questions should this is my first job ever, what questions should I kind of expect to hear, expect to answer, expect to might come up, it might
Yeah.
not. Just kind of prepare. How would I be able to prepare for something like that, question based wise?
So there's almost always basic questions that are asked of in almost every interview, and I always do an icebreaker question to lead it off after introductions. After what do you know about our organization? My first icebreaker question is always, tell me about yourself. You'll get that a lot, and when you become confident in interviews, I literally tell people and I get that question every time I've interviewed here for the last 30 years probably, tell us about yourself, because they kind of want you to relax a little bit, but they also want to watch your process here. And so I will always hesitate, give yourself that few seconds, go, that question requires two answers really for me. I have personal things that I want to tell you about myself, and I have professional things. And amazingly enough, they'll never be able to say it, but interviewers are interested in finding somebody who's fairly stable and is going to be a trouble-free employee. And so I add in things that tell them about who I am. I talk about my professional career. I don't start with I was born in Georgia in 1957. I don't go that far.
Yeah.
But I
It
do
was a
say
Tuesday, rainy day.
it was actually a Sunday just before dawn. But okay, whole different story. My mom tells it really well. So yeah, that question is your first opportunity to really just sell yourself and get comfortable with the question. So you can anticipate that one happening to you. Why should we hire you? Oh,
Yeah.
this is your chance to really sell yourself, and hopefully, if you've done your homework, you have the reasons why they should hire you right there in front of you on your notepad. So it's your chance to sell yourself, and you go with answers like. I'm a good employee. I have a proven track record. I'm a very motivated person. I like quality. I'm a good team player. These are the kind of things that you sell to yourself.
That they like to hear when
Yes.
they ask that question.
And you're selling yourself. So, and then it's another question that you're probably going to get a lot is, what's the best thing you've ever done? Or this is what HR people call strengths and weaknesses. Tell us your strengths. And so, once again, I take a moment there and I always say, the greatest thing I've ever done is a two-part answer for me, because I have a personal greatest thing I've ever done and I have a professional greatest thing I've ever done. I tee off with the professional one because that's really what they're wanting. And so have your best example of what you've done in the work world that was really just great or outstanding or different. And then I always shift down to and then being a dad is my personal greatest thing I've ever done, and having my family around me, and so I do that because there is an importance in personalizing yourself to them, is why I keep pushing this. You want them to know you both professionally, but you also want them to know you personally.
Yeah.
And know that, he's got a family. His kids are the same age as mine. I mean, there's connections that are happening up there for the interviewer. So, your kids go to the same school. Mine,
Yeah.
That's where those kind of conversations lead to. So, and then they'll always ask you to tell them about your work experience, and don't look at them and say, it's on my resume or the application. That's not what they want to hear. Go ahead and walk them through it, and tell them about it. You'll get that question a lot.
So what if you don't have any work experience?
Then I would tell them that you're young, or you're just starting out and you're trying to find your first employment. But here's some things that I've done. I was in band, played soccer. I volunteer at this place. There's things that you can go ahead and say that, because it's not really, it's volunteering, which is work. And I count it. If somebody tells me something that I'm 3 days a week at the hospital volunteering, going around and making sure everybody's had a visitor for the day, I'm impressed by that. So
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about those things, and it's okay. Most of the time, they're going to know whether you've ever been employed or not anyway by the looks of your resume and your application. So, and I'm not scared of a person who has no experience. I would be if it was a six-figure executive job, but
Yeah.
yeah. So here's another one. I don't know how many times I've gotten this, And I answered it wrong. I don't think there's a wrong answer for it, but where do you want to be in 5 years? Yeah, that's a tough question. So here's the reason it's a tough question. If you look across at the HR guy or maybe the executive directors in there with you, or maybe some other executives in there, and you go, what? Like your job? I got enough people chasing me for my job.
Yeah.
I don't need another one. But also, so the flip side of that is, I really like the sounds of this job, and I think I would be here. I'm still doing this job in 5 years. It shows that you're not. I would read that as not motivated. And so, yeah, good soldier, but if you don't want to climb the ladder, if you don't want to increase your levels of responsibility and move up in the organization, in 5 years you still want to be at that entry level job or in the same position that you're in. Yeah, that actually speaks to how motivated is this person. And so, yeah, I would. The real answer for that one, and I actually read this in a book years and years and years ago, back when I was in my early 30s, I think. You look them dead in the eye with that question and go, life's funny. I don't know where I'm going to be 5 years from now. But I really hope 5 years from now, everybody knows that I'm a guy who comes to work every day ready for work. After I read that, the first interview that I went to, and they asked me that question, I think there were 5 people interviewing me. I watched all 5 look at each other and go,
not a bad answer.
I've never, I always answered that wrong.
Yeah.
So, so you want, once again, 5 years is a long time in the business world.
They're all writing it down to use later.
I bet they all used them. And I have used, I'll get to an example here later of, I've used a question that somebody I was interviewing asked me. I wrote it down because I was like, man, that's the best question I've ever been asked in an interview. And I wrote it down, and I am now asked that question. So, and we'll get to that one. It's a good question.
Nice.
So, and then, so where do you want to be in 5 years? And then this one at the end, is there anything you want to add? A lot of people, almost everybody goes, no, I think we've covered it. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, you haven't. You're selling yourself. Reiterate everything that you went through. Clarify anything that you think you didn't answer quite the way you wished you would have. Mm-hmm. Or, because you'll actually, in an interview, sometimes be trying to answer the current question, but still be pondering the one you were just said this. Yeah. Go back and do that. It's okay. Make those notes. I'm forever writing in an interview. When I'm being interviewed, I'm forever jotting stuff down. And, so when they say, is there anything else that you want to add? Yes, add color, fill it, tell those little stories, and add to, and then follow up on questions, and so never just go, no, I think that covers it, because no, it didn't. There's more, and you're selling yourself. So do that.
It's kind of like an conclusion when you go back and you wrap up everything that you kind of just talked about.
Summarize at the end of it. Yeah, I would do that every time. And once again, quiet time, dead time in an interview, not dead time because there is reasons to hesitate when you're being interviewed. You're thinking out an answer. You're not blurting it out. You're thinking about it. You're thinking about how you need to word it. And then, but that's absolutely your opportunity to sell. Dead time should be on your account because you're taking a little bit. But as we mentioned earlier, also no yes, no answers. If they gave you 50 minutes, I'm going to push it out there. I'm going to stay in front of them as long as I can and tell my story. And so, when they say, is there anything you wish to add? You darn right there is. I'm going down that road.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Do you remember your first interview at all?
My first interview was, I do. It was kind of a gimme. The guy was hiring. He cleaned stores. He had a business that he cleaned stores after they closed at night. And he hired almost everybody off the football team that I was playing on. So it was kind of a gimme. The roughest interview I ever had, I had an interview one time with 15 people interviewing me.
Really?
Yeah. And they didn't have it, okay, Bob, your turn. Okay,
Yeah.
Cindy, your turn. Okay, Karen, your turn. It came from, and there were people sitting in a back row, and they would stand up, and I was
Jeez.
like, man, this thing was coming from everywhere. Yeah, that was a several-hour interview. It was for an executive position, executive director of an organization. So,
I mean, that might be kind of like a power move as an interviewer to kind of see how he handles dealing with all of this mayhem or
Yep.
different situations.
I actually did, when I got offered the position, and I did accept that position, I actually did, at the next board meeting, question why.
Yeah. Is that normal?
And they literally were what you just said. Yeah, we're a board.
Yeah.
So it's going to be coming at you like that. I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. I thought overall it was a good interview, and they asked good questions. But yeah, that was chaos. And when I walked out of there, came home, told Mom about it, I was like, oh, goodness sakes. It was just barrage coming at me. But yeah, made it.
Yeah.
Got offered the job. So let's see, you want to talk about questions that...
What are the big no's? I kind of want to know that. Like what, not so much before prepping, like when you actually get into an interview and you're talking, what are things like you definitely don't want to do as an interviewee? I don't know if that's how you...
So, yeah, we already talked about take the breath mint.
Yeah.
Back off on the perfume or the cologne.
But like stuff to say, like I know yes, no's, no.
Yep,
like,
yes, no's.
Like yourself, but has there ever been times that you're just talking to someone and you're like, I don't think I would have worded it that way or said it that way, or
Well, you're going to...
like cussing or...
No,
obviously
cussing
don't do
I would
that.
avoid. Even if they are cussing, and I've been in interviews where they were cussing, but I avoid it. That first impression.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, if they're all cussing up a blue streak, okay, that tells me something about corporate culture here.
Yeah.
But I think I would still take it easy on that. If they offer you a bottle of water, it's up to you if you want to accept it or not. I never do, but it's
Why?
fairly. I just don't.
Just
One more distraction,
yeah.
and so I just don't. But yeah, so the don'ts are, there is a point, and you have to figure out what that is of carrying on too long about something.
Mm-hmm.
When I told you about the questions that I answer with two answers, a professional answer and a personal answer, I don't carry on the personal stuff very long because they're interested in the professional. But I do want to give them enough information to know
To get
who
an
I
idea,
am.
yeah.
And so probably shouldn't carry on too much with that. And read the body language too. If the room's starting to fidget a bit and you're still carrying on, you're probably going to want to wrap it up at that point. And but yeah, really, your goal is for them to get to know you in really a short amount of time, and it's a setup. So they've already got their questions. They may have already interviewed 20 people for that same position, and so you're going to want to sell yourself and make yourself stand out. And I personally think you do that by that personal and professional, those kinds of answers, and then having questions for them. It makes a difference because I would guess the lion's share, the vast, maybe 80% of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people I've interviewed didn't have any questions, because one of the last things they'll say is, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
If you say no, then it just, to me, it shows you didn't do your research, and this is maybe just an interview to you and not something that you're really aspiring to. Mm-hmm. I'm stunned at some of the big organizations that I've run that people would be like, no, I don't know anything about your organization. And whoa, wouldn't you have done a little bit of to find out? So when they ask, do you have any questions of us? And they almost always will. Yes. You got your little notebook. You got questions written in it. Always have questions. And so some of the questions that I would ask is, what does a typical day look like here?
Mm-hmm.
that usually breaks the ice for them, and they're like, oh gosh, we start at this time and we do this, and we all gather at 10 o'clock for a meeting or whatever. Another really good question that shows motivation is there any training?
Okay.
Yeah. And so what would the training look like? And then is there advanced training so that I can move within the organization? And you can ask, is there opportunity to grow in this position? Another good question is, can you tell me about the team I'm going to be working with? And that will tell you a lot about the organization. And they may not use the word team, but can you tell me about the people I'll be working with?
Yeah.
And they may even over give you information at that question. Well, there's Bob, late every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you may get that kind of thing, but what you're really wanting to know is, who am I?
You've been late 3 times this week. Do you know what that means? Yeah, today's Wednesday.
Yay, made it to Wednesday. I also like to know, how is an evaluation or feedback given? A lot of times in HR people or people who are doing the interview will not even know how that works. Unless they have a set process where every year you're evaluated. And what you're trying to find out here is, it's not Jane coming in every day and screaming and yelling at me because I messed up.
Yeah.
Trying to get, how do I get feedback? And so you could ask about, what's the culture like here? I've been to places where when I asked that question, they really got into it. They were like, oh man, we have last week we had Cowboy Days, and we had buffalo stew, and we had
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, and they do those kinds of things, and we get together regularly. We have an annual picnic. We have an annual Christmas party. These are things that you kind of want to know about.
Yeah.
And a lot of things nowadays, a lot of organizations will have celebrations of like Black History Month or any of those kind of cultural things, and so they'll tell you about that when you ask them about the culture. So good stuff to know.
Yeah.
Always ask at the end of it, if they don't volunteer it, when will I hear from you?
Give them the timeline.
Yeah, let them, and they may, at that point, you may learn a few things like I have when I've asked that question. Well, we've got 7 more people interview, so my brain's going, oh, they got 7 more. How many did they interview before me?
Yeah.
And you don't really want to ask that, but they got at least 7 more that they're going to interview, and that's time consuming, so it's going to be out there a ways. But if you can pin them down on when they will contact you, and not when does this process conclude, not when are you going to decide. When are you going to contact me? Because there are organizations that, if you're not the person they're offering the job to, they don't even contact the other people. I've had that
Once they've
happen.
got their guy, they move on.
Man, you should not do that. You owe them. They spent time with you. And so always ask, when can I hear back? You can also ask, what are the next steps in the process, especially at the executive level. It usually winds up with an initial interview, another interview, another interview.
Yeah.
With different people. For my job right now as Foundation Executive Director. First interview, then there was a board member who couldn't make it to that interview. They interviewed me on their own, and then there was a follow-on interview. And so before I finally got offered the position. And so you want to know what the process is. And then, remember I told you earlier about...
battery died.
Tech, what are you going to do? My techie here.
It was full. Apparently the battery life's only
so long.
45 minutes.
Okay. So the best question I've ever been asked by somebody I was interviewing, and I think this is a great question, I have used it since then, is, what kind of person are you looking for? Oh, when I got asked that question as an interviewer, I was like, oh. So I started answering what kind of person we were looking for. This was an executive position. Mm-hmm. That guy wrote down every one of those things that I said I was looking for, and then he went down that list and said why he was that person. I have used that question every interview I've been on since then, because it's a great question, and it lets you fill in their blanks. And so ask that one. Good question. Threw me for a loop, and I've used it ever since then.
It's a good one.
It is.
So, what do you recommend for someone who, let's say they didn't have a good ending with their job, and then they go to a different job interview for a new job? I mean, how do they, you just got fired, or you did
Yeah.
something that you shouldn't have, or, you
That's a good
got a
question.
pass of some sort. How do you tackle that overcome that going into an interview?
So, great question. And it's probably going to happen to you because if you had, if you were fired, they're gonna know,
Yeah.
and they're gonna ask about that. First thing, never talk bad about your former employer. I don't care how bad the experience was. I don't care what big jerks they were. You don't talk bad about them. In order to answer that question, like the question of, let's say you just had a terrible experience and both parties agreed to separate, you can just say, you know what, it was a very complex work environment, and I did the best I could there, but in the end, there was just personality conflicts that I could not overcome, and they could not overcome, and these things happen, and your interviewers are going to know that, and they'll probably be nodding their head because, yeah, these are fairly common things. And so, but just don't talk bad about your former employer, because as a guy who's interviewing you, you're going to talk bad about us when you're gone from here too. So don't do that. And then, yeah, sometimes it just wasn't a good mix, or if you found out that job wasn't for you, and that's okay to answer that question like that. So,
Okay.
what do you do when you've been fired, though? Always be straight up, because they're going to know.
Yeah.
that
You don't
you've
want to
been
lie.
fired. You don't want to lie,
Just
no,
be-
because that'd be a deal killer right there. Just be straight up, and then always go to, once again, telling your story. Go to what you learned from it and how that makes you a better employee. And so always take that and take it back to you. Every one of those questions, take it back to you and what that did for you. And so, hey, we've all been fired. It happens. Well, not all of us maybe, but a lot of us have been fired, and it's just part of life, and it's not a deal killer. Sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah.
So another bad question that you can get asked, difficult thing, is if you've had that bad job experience, and like I said, you just never talk bad about your former employer. So let's talk about some scenarios here that that may be something you need to think about. Tattoos and piercings. They've become so commonplace that after interviewing hundreds and hundreds of people, I don't fret over tattoos or piercings at all myself. But there are people who do. And so if you have anything that's offensive, go ahead and cover that up and remove that. Personally, after interviewing hundreds and hundreds, that kind of thing doesn't disturb me at all. But you might keep it in mind, and especially if you have a tattoo on you that is maybe offensive.
Yeah.
And so just cover that up, and that's okay. You're going to meet other people who work there who have tattoos. They're so common now that, nothing to fret over. But just keep in mind that there are people who do fret over those. And so, and then let's say you have a criminal history. So I want to first tell you all, I have hired a person who went to prison for fraud. I have hired a person, several of them, who went to prison for robbery. And I hired a person who went to prison for murder. Criminal history is something they're going to know about. It's usually in the application anyway. Do you have any criminal history?
Yeah.
So don't lie. And then straight up, once again, it's the same answer that you would have with having a bad experience at a job or being fired from a job. Be straight up. Tell them what you learned from it. Tell them how you grew from it and how that makes you a better person and maybe a better employee. So show how you learned, show how you grew, and show how that takes you into your future. And that's the best way to answer that. So I hope those things I wanted to cover because I think they exist for people. And so there are ways to sell yourself in spite of that. And just so you know, the guy that I hired that had done serious prison time for murder, one of the best hires I've ever made.
Really?
Yeah, good guy. Made a mistake, dumb, young.
Yeah.
And he knew it. He owned it. And
Sometimes that's all you can do,
yeah,
really.
and be positive though, and just keep going and turn that into a positive message about yourself. How you grew from it, what you learned from it, how you can be a better employee because of it. So there you go. So as we're nearing the end here, follow up. I always appreciated getting a quick note from somebody. Hey, thanks for the interview. Really enjoyed meeting you.
Email or tag?
Email works.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Say thank you. It puts them back on the top of the stack of resumes.
Yeah.
This person cared enough to take the extra step
Yeah.
and say thank you. And always thank them as you're leaving the interview as well. And then, say in your email or in a card or whatever, however you want to do it, I really enjoyed meeting you guys. And reiterate just maybe some highlights if you got just a little bit of time. So, hey, here's why I think I'd be a really great match.
Yeah.
It's one more chance to sell yourself. If you're offered the job, if you're not offered the job, always ask. If they call you and say, "Hey, we've offered that position to somebody else," always ask, "Could I have?
What could I
have done? Yeah,
Yeah.
better. Can you have any recommendations for me?" And then also, if it's a place you really want to work at, ask them to keep you in mind for any other positions.
Okay.
So you're on their radar. You're polite, and so you want them to keep you posted. Usually, I did. I'd put that resume or application into a folder that I kept. That hey, when we've got another position that this person's eligible for, then we will do that. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. At the end, okay, let's wrap her up here.
Okay.
We're a bit over time. We actually ran through a battery, so
Yeah.
we were going to keep it at 40 minutes. In the end, it's an interview. Have some fun. Relax a little bit. It's just an interview. And remember that you are interviewing them too, and sell yourself with every question. Take it always back and sell yourself. You're going to be fine. Interviews are fun. Have a blast.
Worst case scenario, they say no.
Yeah. You didn't have the job in the first
Okay.
place. So, yeah.
On to the next.
On to the next. Yep. So, there you go.
Sounds good.
I hope everybody got some information
Yeah.
out of that.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that wraps it up for this episode. And still don't have a name.
Nope. No name yet.
We have some ideas. Not quite sold on them. So if you guys have any ideas, please put them in the comments. Let us know.
What should we call this?
No idea is a bad idea. But
Well, maybe we call it that. No idea is a bad idea.
we'll think about it.
Yeah. Give us some ideas. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Alrighty.
All right. Thanks, Christopher. Good job.
Likewise.
You guys take her easy. We love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.